Hello, my name is Dylan and I work with a Microsoft Gold partner called Smart Data Software Services in the Vancouver area of Canada. Today I'll be going through how to create a survey using Microsoft Forms. Forms is a great tool for collecting responses across a sample group of people. People can submit their responses from their desktop or even from their mobile phones as well. This makes it super accessible and smooth to get feedback or insights about certain things. So today we're going to be going over how to create an online survey using Microsoft Forms. These surveys can be used internally within a company or sent out externally to customers or even just random groups of people. Forms is used in universities for student surveys, as well as tons of other places as well. It has all the necessities you'd want in a survey tool and looks nice and is super functional too. In terms of subscriptions or licenses, Microsoft Forms has a free version available to anybody with a Microsoft account, so like a Gmail account. And it's also included in Microsoft Office 365 subscriptions. There's also a Pro version available with a few extra features. Here's what we're going to cover. I'll show you how to get to and start Microsoft Forms. Then I'll show you how to create a survey and how to configure the most basic properties of the survey. Like, is this an external anonymous survey or an internal user tracked survey? I'll show you how to add questions, and I'll be going through each of the basic and advanced question types. There are some interesting ways you can configure these questions, so stick around for all of those. I'll show you how to share your survey out to people. And lastly, I'll show you how to view the responses to your survey and how to export those responses to Excel to make charts and things like that. So the first step is to get to the Forms website. I'll show you what that looks like. So first I'll go to forms.microsoft.com. And it's going to ask you to log in if you're not logged in. I'm logged in here, but if for logging in, you'll usually be able to use your company email to log in here. But you can also use a Microsoft account to log in here. So like a Gmail or like an Xbox account. I'll be showing you the free version, but there is also a Pro version that is available. That Pro version does have some nice additions, but doesn't add anything essential. The Pro version adds like AI insights. So for instance, when you're viewing your responses, the page is going to spotlight things like 20% of people who voted A in question 1 also voted A in question 2. So the things that you could figure out yourself, but the AI can spotlight those findings so that you can see it sooner and so that you don't miss it. Other than that, though, the Pro version is pretty much the same as the free version. I'd only recommend the Pro version once you've been using the free version successfully for a little bit and are looking to get more from it. So we'll be going through the free version here, but there's enough to walk through on that alone. Okay, so we're going to start creating our form. So right here, I'm going to click on New Form here, and it gives us a new form. First, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call mine Fruit Survey. And its description is going to be a survey to find out people's favorite fruits. All right. So it's good practice to set the survey's settings right at the beginning so that you don't forget. To get into the settings, you click on the 3 dots up here at the top right, and then you click on Settings here. So there are 2 sections. The first one is who can fill out the form. That's this one here. And the second one is options for responses. For the first section, who can fill out the form, we can select anyone with the link can respond, or only people in my organization can respond. For my example, I'm going to select anyone with the link, which means that the survey will be anonymous since we won't be tracking the users. If you choose only people in my organization, you have the option to record name as well as kind of limit the responses to 1 per person. But if it's anonymous, you don't get those choices. You can't record who it is. You can't limit the fact that people can respond multiple times. But that's okay for the context of mine. The next section here, options for responses, I won't change anything yet. You can come here later and disable this first option, accept responses. It's usually fine to just leave the survey permanently open and forget about closing it. unless you're concerned that people might send in responses too late or maybe confused if they submit responses after you stop looking. You can also set or change the start and end dates of your survey if you're doing a time-limited survey. So we can go start date or end date. The one that I really do recommend changing, though, is this customized thank you message one, because it sounds really robotic how it is. Your response was submitted. What I'm going to do instead is thank you for your response. Your insights will help us better plan what fruits to stock. Lastly, here we have notification at the very bottom there. I usually leave this section unchecked, but you may want to consider those settings, particularly if it's a really important survey for a small sample group over a limited amount of time. In that case, you might want to know whether anybody submits a response. This can also be fun to set when you're first opening your survey so that you can see whether or not people are submitting responses, and you can be notified about that. All right, and then as for settings, that's the basic settings. There's also this theme here. So if we click on that, this is gonna give us options to change the colors. We can see the add new button is changing color. You also have some more visual themes too. So these ones have some background images too. I'm gonna pick the green one. I like that one. But yeah, so that's the settings. So now we're ready to create and add questions. So to add a new question, you just click on Add New here. And we have a few choices of different question types. These are the basic ones. These are the advanced ones. I'm going to go through all of these because there's a lot to them. The first option I'll show you is the choice question. My question is going to be, what kind of fruit do you like? And my answers will be apples, bananas, coconuts, and durians. That's not nearly enough fruits to get a good picture of what people like. So I'm gonna add this other option here, and that will let the responders enter in another single option of their choice. They can fill in that other option with anything I might have missed, and it's important to know that the other option only allows them to add in one other response. So they can't add 2 or 3 other options. They just get the one other. Each question type also has a few settings down at the bottom in case you want to make it a little different. So this one, for instance, we can enable it and it'll allow the person to submit multiple answers. So they could go both A and B. I can also make the question required here by clicking on this. That will make it so that a responder can't submit the response until they at least answer all of the required questions. Next, I'll add the second question type, which is a text response. This lets the users type in whatever they want. I'll ask, why do you like that fruit? And they can respond with a written response. Here I have the option to make it a long answer. That will give them the ability to use as much space as they need to write a whole story on why they like that fruit. That sounds good to me, so I'm gonna enable it to be a long answer there. We can also see that the required here is, it's on by default. So I set the other one to be required. It also made every question that I add default to required. But I can disable that to make it so that not all of the questions are required. The next question type is rating. So this lets the responders rate something based on a scale. We have the option to change the symbol for this. It could be either a star or a number. I'll leave it as a star. And you can also increase or decrease the number of levels here by using this levels one. So it can go up to 10, or we can have it go down to 2. And I'm also going to choose a image for this. So if I hover over this and over here, it goes insert media. I'm going to go image, and I'm going to search just for an apple. There's an apple. Just going to load in there. And my question is going to be, how appetizing is this app? Great. Okay, so next question type. I'm going to add new. I'm going to add date here. So for this, we can have our responders enter a date. I'll ask the question, when's the best day to eat a fruit? And yeah, they can answer in a date there. Awesome. So those are all the basic question types. Next, we're going to go into the advanced question types. So the advanced ones are under this drop down here. So the first advanced question type is ranking. This one lets the responders rank multiple options against each other. So they could say, I prefer B, then C, then D, and then A. My question is going to be, rank these fruits from favorite to least favorite. And I'm going to type those fruits again here. So apples, bananas, coconuts, and berries. Before we go any further, I want to show you the preview function. So to do that, you click preview up here. And this will show you what your survey is going to look like to responders. So if I scroll down to the bottom, there's the ranking. And you can see they can just drag it. They also have these buttons here, so they can rank their favorites there. You can preview this in computer or mobile view. To see mobile view, you just go to the top here and click mobile. And that's going to kind of do a simulation of a phone. And you can see what it's going to look like on a phone there, and how it'll be to fill in your questions. All right, so to go back to the editor, you just click on this back at the top left there. And now we're back in the editor. So next question type, click add. And next one is called Likert. It's a weird name, but as soon as I add it here, you might see it's familiar. This is the most complex question type you can add, but it's also a really good format for asking questions and getting a measure of the results. To the left of the table, you have these statements, and then at the top, there's all these options. For the question name in a Likert format, it's usually pretty vague. So I'm going to write, how do you feel about the following statements? And generally the options here, they start with strongly disagree. And then over here, oh, you can see these are the suggestions. So these will kind of tell you some of the things that you might want to pick. So for here, it's going to go to disagree, and then it goes to neutral, agree, and then strongly agree. And for statements, you can type in a bunch of things the responder can agree or disagree with. So for mine, it's going to be, I prefer fruits with shells, thick skin. And the other one's going to be, I prefer very sweet fruits. So right away, you can get a pretty full response because all of these statements kind of play off of each other. And you can get a pretty good idea of what kinds of fruits a person would like, even if they don't necessarily tell you the name of the fruit. You can see all the properties of it. Okay, so that's the Likert question type. The next one is file upload, which it is telling us that it's disabled because we checked off share externally in our settings earlier. Because our survey for this example is an external anonymous survey, we can't ask responders to upload files. But if you're doing an internal user-based survey, you will be able to use this. In that case, you could, for instance, have somebody upload a Word document or a photo, but that's not available for anonymous surveys because people could upload files and things like that. The next one is the Net Promoter Score. This one's pretty much like the rating question. It looks a little bit different from a rating, and you aren't able to customize this as much. This one's more specifically for marketing purposes. You can see it has its own question that it starts with. How likely are you to recommend us? This is a very template format, kind of marketing related question. And next one is section. So this is the last one that we can add. but it's very, very important. You can use it to define different sections in your survey. If I scroll all the way up to the top, you can see it says section 1 here. This text, the section 1 here, that appears in the editor. If I go over to preview, it doesn't say section 1. So all that is it shows you section 1 in the editor, and then over here, section 2, it shows us that as well. Sections might be really helpful if you have a long survey or want to define different sections to make it more clear to responders. I'm going to move a few of my questions down here into the second section. So move that one down, and this one down too. And I'll show you what that looks like. So now if I go back into preview, we have our first section, and then here's the second section. But if we go to mobile, for instance, it goes down to here, and then you get this next button. When you go next, I have to answer the required questions. If we go next, now it shows us the second section. So we've gone through configuring the settings, we've gone through all the question types. For my example, my survey is complete, it's all built. Next, I'm going to show you how to share the survey out so that people can start to give responses. So to do that, you click on share up here at the top right here. And we have a few options here, and I'll go through these. The first is this drop down here. This will give us different links according to whether we want a anonymous survey, so anyone with the link, or a non-anonymous, which is only people in my organization. Since mine's meant to be an anonymous external survey, I'm going to leave it how it is. And it gives you this link here. I can click on copy right here to get the link, and I can paste this right into an email or any other communication. That's the simplest, and I'd really recommend this way. Otherwise, there are some other options. There's QR code here, which you could use. Not many people use QR codes though. And then we also have embedding into a web page, so you can put this onto a website, which is pretty cool. And the last option here, this one's just going to pop open your email. But I prefer to write my own email, so I'm just going to copy. I'm going to use that link, and I'll copy that link, and then I'll paste this into an email. As soon as anybody clicks on that link, they'll be able to respond to the survey. There's no publishing of a survey necessarily. You don't have to finalize it. All you have to do is send them that link. You can actually even continue to edit the survey after you've already sent the links out, and even after you've had some people respond. But you'll probably want to stop editing after you've sent it out, unless you feel the need to fix something. We also have a couple more options below. There's this share as template and share to collaborate. The first one will give you a link. So if we click on this, it's going to give you a link. And this allows people to copy your form. So for instance, if we're making our next survey and we want to base it on a format that we set up here, you can use this to kind of accelerate that a bit. And that means that you can invest a little bit more time into creating a good format. The other link option here, the share to collaborate, this one's useful if you want to co-author and share the creation of a survey with other people. So for this link, this will allow people to edit. So this one will allow pretty much anybody, so they don't have to be in your company. This one will allow people just in your company to view and edit. So this one's more secure setting, people in my organization. This link will give them the same amount of control over the survey as you have. You just click on this and it'll create a share link for them. It's also important to mention that you can revoke this collaboration link by deleting them here. You just click on that delete button right there. And what it'll do, it says this link will be permanently removed and cannot be reactivated. You can create a new link later. Okay, so yeah, that's how you share your survey. Next, I'm going to show you how to review the responses. So to do that, I'm going to fill out my own form a few times and then I'll get back. To fill out my own form a few times, what you do is you just click on this preview here, and then you can submit your own kind of test cases and things. All right, so that's the preview, and I'm going to do that a few more times. All right, so I filled in a few example responses. Now let's take a look at those responses. So here in this responses tab, we can see an overview of all these responses. It shows us the number of responses, how long it took to complete, whether or not it's still open. If it's active, it means it's still open. And we can see these results. So we can see what kind of fruits do people like. Here's a little chart. It shows us most of our responders liked coconuts. Why do you like that fruit? It's just all different answers for these reasons why they like the fruit. How appetizing is the apple? The average rating was about in the middle. When's the best day to eat fruit? Completely different days. Just everybody picks a different day. Rank these fruits from favorite to least favorite. So bananas were the second choice all the time. Every single time it was the second choice, it's telling us. Coconuts were often people's first choice, but otherwise they were person's third choice. Apples were sometimes the first choice. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here. How likely are you to recommend us? So I got a negative 40 on this MPS. So that means that most people didn't like taking the survey. How do you feel about the following statements? Just all around the board here. Yeah. So that's responses. That's what they look like for you. The last thing I want to show you is how to export to Excel. So on this responses page on the right here, there's this open Excel button. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to bring it over to Excel. So if you're creating, you like to create charts or views or anything, you can do that with this. So to do that, you just click Open Excel. It's going to download a little file here. And I click on that. It's going to open up Excel for me. And there we go. So there's our responses. Of course, you can see the emails were anonymous here, so we don't know who said what, but it shows us each of those responses on a different line. So this is kind of nice. There's a lot you can do with this. So as far as Microsoft Forms goes, that's all there is to it. It's a really nice tool for making surveys, and filling them out is super smooth as well. There's a lot of nuance to the writing of good questions for a survey, and I'm a technical guy, not so much a writer, so I wouldn't advise you on that. But I would recommend searching for articles on how to write good survey questions, because there's a lot of content out there for that. I hope that gave you everything you need to know to get started with Microsoft Forms and use all its features. Thanks very much, and I hope that you make some really insightful surveys, and have a good one.